Marine Corps, written by Plastic Finish, 1968. No one passes the Marine Corps test without first being human. At least, that's what they say. For me, it all began with a bugle call. In seconds, every recruit in the barracks was on their feet. Every recruit, except me. I was still asleep in my cot, the last one down while the rest snapped to attention. That was my first mistake, and the first of many humiliations to come. I was at peace, warm in my cot, drifting through dreams, counting four-legged sheep. The next moment, I was airborne, the cot upended, and the floor smashed the peace out of me. "This sleepy Laconian just earned all of you 50 push-ups." Everyone hit the dirt around me in perfect unison, assuming the position. One. Nobody moves past one until Sleeping Beauty joins in, Sarge barked. Looking around, I saw my bunkmates sweating for nothing, waiting for me to make their next rep official. Every push-up wasted until I started moving. Half of them shot daggers at me. Others kept their eyes locked to the floor, muscles trembling with the effort I was stealing from them. Shit, I thought, then assumed the position, and then finally 1 turned into 2, then 3, and so on. By the time we finished, the time for breakfast had come and gone. My arms shook, but luckily I didn't need my arms for the next task. We had to run, and not stop for hours on an empty stomach. "The squad moves as fast as the slowest runner," Sarge reminded us. "And if you don't pick up the pace, you'll be missing lunch too." Spoiler alert, we missed lunch, and guess who was to blame? My squad mates were going to kill me. Soap bars and tube socks came to mind. Every one of them looked at me like I was their missing lunch. Predators, the lot of them. Next was the obstacle course. It demanded more of my body than it was capable of, breaking down from the lack of sleep, hard work, and no food. I pushed myself at a snail's pace. My squad mates waited on the other side, having already completed the course, hungry and tired. I got to the rope wall and stared at my arms. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't hold them steady. The next hour was spent desperately trying to climb an unclimbable wall. Grip, step, slip, grip, step, slip. Sometimes I could even get a second step in, but in the end I always ended back in the mud. I couldn't move anymore. My bones ached. My muscles screamed out in pain. I lay there, nose barely above the mud, barely able to breathe, when I heard Sarge's voice. "All right, I'm starting to feel sick watching this little puppy try to climb. Someone go pick him up and throw him over that wall." Moments later, I felt a firm grip on my arm, pulling me out of the mud and over a shoulder. It was Kyle. He climbed the wall a second time and unceremoniously tossed me over the other side. When he came over to meet me, he looked into my eyes, rolled his, then picked me up again. Next, we swam. We had to hold our breath, dive 60 feet into the crashing waves, and retrieve a sunken box. My body was broken and worn out, but I was going to pass. I refused to do anything but pass. I swam and swam, deeper and deeper, to 20 feet. Then panic set in. I was so deep, and I only had so much breath left. I was probably halfway through my supply of oxygen. I looked down at the box, then up at the surface. After everyone else had surfaced, they all looked in my direction. After a pause, my head broke the surface. There was a look of relief on some and annoyance on others. I punched the water and cried out. I was going to go back. I couldn't fail another test. I refused, so back down I went. But someone had a hold of my arm. I looked up, and it was Sarge. "You're done for the day," he said. There was no emotion in that statement. I would have preferred he yell at me like before. What did this mean? Did I fail? Would I ever pass? Why couldn't I read his face? Dinner was eaten in silence. No one spoke a word. I kept my face buried in my collar, only looking down at my food, but I could feel the humans glaring at me. They all moved to another table when I brought my tray over. I got it. I cost them breakfast and lunch. I almost cost them dinner if Sarge hadn't dragged me out of the water. Maybe sleep would reset me. Maybe I could just get a little rest. The next day was a repeat of the last. Over and over and over. I failed every test. My body getting weaker and weaker, never getting the full restful sleep promised, never fully recovering before taking further torture. Finally, we were back in the water. How the humans could hold their breath so long, it astounded me. I kept treading water after every other marine finished. There was nothing left to do but try again, so I did. Down and down I dove. When I reached 30-foot mark, past the point I usually turned around, I kept going. I didn't care how much breath I had left. 40 feet, 50 feet. It was dark down here, or maybe I was dying. 60 feet. I reached the box. I was going to... Everything went blank. Next thing I knew, I was spitting out water as Kyle performed chest compressions. After my sputtering went quiet, I heard Sarge's voice. Oh no, it's over, isn't it? I thought. Congratulations, cadet. You passed. I had to have heard him wrong. What? I asked between fresh sputtering of coughs. You passed, he said. He had to be joking. Sir, I failed every test. I was slow. I was weak. I couldn't do anything. You killed yourself chasing that box. He pointed at the black thing gripped in my hand. You chose death over quitting. That's the kind of bastard I want beside me. Not the fastest, not the strongest, the one too stubborn to ever turn back. That's a Marine. Is that all it takes? I was startled. He glared back. Is that all it takes, Sergeant? He corrected. And yes, that's all it takes. He smiled at me. You know, I'm realizing now my bunkmates, they never made fun of me for not being fast or strong. Oh, they were pissed, yeah. And I'm sure none of them liked me. I cost them a meal or two, but me being an Encodian never was the issue. They wanted to see if I had what it takes. Were they jealous? End of story. Story number 2. Not Those Humans Again, written by firefighter Raven. Gizzard took his time to enjoy the warm sun and gentle breeze, bringing the smell of sweet monarch flowers from inland. He'd fell in love with this place when he was just 13 cycles old and always wanted to live here. So he jumped at the chance to work as a gardener for one of the resorts near the inland sea. He worked his way up the ladder, from gardener to cleaning staff to security to front desk, and finally he was the night manager. As he approached the resort, his auriculars noticed the ambient noise level was much higher than normal. Oh no, Gizzard thought to himself. Please let me be wrong. He checked his watch for the date. No, it can't be that time already. He picked up the pace, and as he rounded the corner, his worst fears were confirmed. There was a large group of young adult humans. They were all headed to the beach from his resort. Gizzard hurried inside and saw Brelix was working the front desk. He had only been working here for half a cycle. Before Brelix even had a chance to greet him, Gizzard burst out, Did you check these humans in? Brelix nodded. Of course I did. Confused by Gizzard's stricken look on his face, he continued, Is there something wrong? Are those the only ones you checked in? Gizzard asked, while thinking to himself. If this is all of them, then we might be okay. No, Brelix replied, thoroughly confused by Gizzard's behavior. How many humans around that age are registered now? A sinking feeling in his stomach, afraid of the reply. Brelix checked the terminal before replying, We are almost at capacity. There are 63 at the moment. Why do you ask? Gizzard continued his line of questioning. Did they have any alcohol with them? Brelix took a moment before replying, I didn't see any. Gizzard gave a breath of relief before Brelix followed up with, They did seem to have a bunch of small barrels with them. Kazad covered his face with all four of his hands. Relics didn't know what to make of the normally calm Kazad, seeming on the edge of panic.
Kazad, are you okay? Is something wrong?
Relics asked, with increasing worry in his voice. Kazad shook his head. It's not your fault. You weren't here at this time last cycle. With resignation in his voice, Kazad continued, These young humans are on break from human education level called university. Relics quietly pronounced the unfamiliar word to himself. Kazad added, They are from multiple universities, and the humans like to come to warmer places, usually with lots of sun, beaches, and water. They call it spring break, after a season on their cradle world. They come for recreation and consume large amounts of human drink called beer. Relics replied,
But that is a bad thing?
With a heavy sigh, Kazan said, They can get very rowdy when intoxicated and do all kinds of stupid things. Afire with curiosity, Brennick replied,
Like what?
Before Kazan could tell him, a naked human male ran through the lobby and out the front doors. Kazan just looked at Brennick. Like that. They seem fond of running around naked.
What else?
Brennick couldn't believe what he just saw. Kazan started to say something, when there was a loud crash from the warming pool outside. They both ran to the door leading to that patio. There was a pile of debris that used to be one of the chairs in the guest rooms. Kazan looked at Brennick. Like that. Call the cleaning staff and then have security go into the room with the broken window. Kazan scratched his jaw.
At least we can throw them out.
Kazan shook his head and thought to himself, maybe I'll go back to being a gardener until this is all over. He was heading towards his office when a pair of humans ran down the hall, shooting each other with water from what they called squirt guns. Kazan just shook his head and muttered under his breath, Fucking humans! End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.